For a long time, we've had problem with the news in the United States of America. This goes back probably to the 1920s even. I remember you had the Scopes monkey trial, was that 1925? And you had all this media hysteria about the Scopes monkey trial in Tennessee. A lot of anti-Christian reporting, and it's some kind of media sensation. So this is not a new or recent development where the media is left-wing. And it's just gotten really bad ever since, because they used to have, they used to pretend you could, if you're intellectually engaging the media and news and thinking about how they report things, how they word things. I mean, the news media has been very extremely left and biased my whole life. But they used to try to pretend that people say, look, this is liberal stuff, man. You got a slant. Oh, no, we're not liberal. We're not biased. We just report things as they are. I think they did that. Somebody made a statement like that recently on the Steve Colbert show, and the audience just started roaring out in laughter because the media is a laughingstock. And it's just gotten, especially when Obama was running for office, for presidency, and the media just threw their weight behind him. And it's just threw objectivity to the side, or any pretense of activity, and it's pushing this candidate. But they worked to get H.W. Bush out of office by promoting, Ross Perot, giving him publicity because they wanted to get their man in office, Bill Clinton. So this has been going on my whole life. But now they don't even pretend to be objective. They're just, overtly leftist. And why is that? Well, first off, like I said, this goes back over 100 years of a left-wing bias in the news media. But some of it also is there must not be a demand for objective news, sadly. It's clickbait, right? First off, they're just rife with left-wing Marxist extremists in the news media. And then secondly, I've seen this. Like, I like to check the news in the morning, and just straight news doesn't exist anymore. And I used to try to check different news sources, and it's just like CNN, MSNBC, News at Yahoo, whatever, just extreme vitriol and just insulting, inflammatory rhetoric against conservatives. And it's like, I'm not even trying to get in politics in the morning. I just want to see what's going on around the world. And it's just they're so aggressive and left-wing agenda oriented. So it just got to the point, it's like, I can't take CNN anymore. I just can't take it. All the insults, all the vitriol, they're very pronounced bias. I'm conservative. I don't want to, it's like, okay, I'm not a big fan of Fox News, but I guess I'll just have to watch Fox News. So at least I know what's going on. And the other thing is, like, you turn your computer on. I turn my computer on in the morning, and you get this like a homepage, and they got like 5 to 10 news stories. And the whole time Biden was in office, it's like, we got Trump now. We finally got him. He's going to jail. Trump did this. Trump did that. Trump did the other. And every day is like only 1 or 2 stories would not have been about Trump. Of course, that didn't get them anywhere. Trump ended up getting elected anyway. But I think even now, if you actually look at that page, there's going to be 1 or 2 stories bashing Trump, because it's not objective journalism, it's not news, right? So, what happened with me is, like, I want to be informed of what's going on in the world. So I just look at the Gateway Pundit, which is pretty good. It is a conservative site, and according to Wikipedia, of course, is fake information. It has a strong left-wing bias, and Wikipedia says Gateway Pundit is fake news. But CNN is definitely fake news. And what's on the Gateway Pundit is way more accurate than what you see in CNN. And there's no accountability for CNN pushing falsehoods and propaganda, disinformation, misinformation all the time. So I look at the Gateway Pundit. And recently in the Gateway Pundit, there's some stories about the Assyrians. And this is by Antonio Graceffo, one of their correspondents. And it says, exclusive reporting from Iraq's dwindling Christian population. So he says, in Iraq, the biggest day for Christian church attendance Friday, the Muslim day of prayer, because according to the government calendar, Sunday is a normal work day. Attending Mass at the Eastern Catholic Church in Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan, I heard the Lord's Prayer spoken in Aramaic, the language of Jesus. The faith of this community, one of the oldest continuous Christian traditions in the world, was deeply inspiring, surrounded by Muslims and specifically targeted by Islamist extremists, particularly ISIS. Both the Assyrian and Chaldean Christian, the two main historical groups, have managed to preserve their faith, culture, and language for nearly 2,000 years. Christianity was first brought to Iraq, then known as Mesopotamia, in the 1st century A.D. It is traditionally attributed to the apostles Thomas Thaddeus of Edessa, known as Adai, and Mari, who, according to Oriental traditions, evangelized the provinces of Assyria and Babylonia. St. Thomas the Apostle, remembered in the Gospels as Doubting Thomas, is one of Jesus' 12 apostles. According to tradition, he traveled through Mesopotamia on his way to India, where he founded the Christian community later known as the St. Thomas Christians. This report was from October 12, 2025. And he says, every day I spend in Iraq, I know I'm walking where the apostles once walked and worshiping the churches they helped establish. The names of the people and places are the ones I read about in the Bible. The Assyrians and Chaldeans are mentioned throughout the Old Testament, and the tombs of both Job, whose faith God tested through countless afflictions, and Jonah, who was swallowed by a great fish, are found here in Iraq. So he talks about the Church of the East. It's a very good article here. Now, Newsweek is far left wing, and I guess they're still printing. People aren't really buying print journalism anymore. And I might every once in a while, but it's awful. Why would I waste my money when they're so biased and left wing extreme? Really. I've heard, liberals are not exposed to conservative ideas. They're insulated from it. But we hear their crap all the time. Can't get away from it. All the nonsense they spew. And it's just offensive to the intellect. I think part of it is, first, it's difficult for people to use critical thinking skills and to think objectively. Unfortunately, we're all equal on the side of God, but not everybody's equal in intellect. And that's the bad thing. It's like, why does the media's lost a lot of influence, but it still has some power, unfortunately. And you look at, I saw this, as James O'Keefe was up north in these blue states, and he was knocking on doors, and what's going on is Act Blue looks like they're doing money laundering for the Democrat Party. And what they were doing is you have, some elderly couple in a blue state, and they give $10 a week to the Democrat Party through Act Blue, but money is being laundered. So he's knocking on these doors like, hey, it looks like you've given $10,000 a month. Did you give $10,000? What? And you look at these people, and it's like Act Blue is it's a hate group. It's like, you look at these people, and it's like they seem nice. And I don't have any ill will towards these people at all, but they hate, this way they hate Trump, the way they hate conservatives. And they're culturated in that. And to hate people they never met or don't know anything about. It's just why the whole liberal news media establishment needs to be brought down. So a lot of what's in Newsweek is far left garbage, but they have some articles here about the Assyrians, shockingly enough. I think these are like letters to the editor or whatnot. It says, don't forget about the persecuted Christians of Iraq and Syria. This is an opinion article published in January 30 and 31st in Newsweek magazine. This is by Nuri Kino. Last year marked 2 decades since the illegal invasion of Iraq. I went to Iraq twice for the war. And the overthrow of dictator Saddam Hussein's regime. I don't know. I think that we mismanaged the war, and as bad as Saddam Hussein was, and he was bad, obviously Iraq was stabler and safer than it is now, or was after the war. It was a war that forever changed not only the Iraq, but the entire Middle East. 8 years after the start of the Iraq War, neighboring Syria was embroiled in a painful internal conflict and an internal proxy war. The number of Christians in both these countries have drastically declined since 2003. Christians in Iraq number around 120,000 today, according to the U.S. State Department. A huge fall in 2 decades from 1.2 million. Their population is expected to decline even further. In Syria, the Christian population was reduced to 300,000. In 2011, there were 1.5 million Christians living there. Most of these Christians in these countries are ethnic Assyrians, Syriacs, and Chaldeans, and Armenians. The decline in these countries is due to religious persecution by terrorists. Another Newsweek article, 10 years after ISIS invaded Mosul, where does that leave Iraq's indigenous Assyrians' opinion? This is from July 27th, 2024, or June 27th, 2024, updated June 23rd. And this is, I don't see who wrote this. Their name isn't listed. But you can find the article. My relatives fled Mosul to save their lives before ISIS invaded and seized power in the summer of 2014. The invasion of Iraq's second largest city not only uprooted my relatives, indigenous Assyrians, but also led the genocide of Assyrian, Chaldean, Syriacs, Christians, as well as Shiite Muslims and Sunnis. 10 years have passed since the radical Islamic militants invaded Mosul, known as biblical Nineveh, once the capital of the ancient Assyrian Empire, destroying anything and killing everyone who did not submit to their deranged version of Islam. Have things improved for Iraq's indigenous Christians? This is odd. This is another one called The Kurdification of Northern Iraq, Assyria Opinion. This is March 17th, 2025, by Muhammad Ahmad. This says the Assyrians, an ethnic group indigenous to the Middle East, are a threatened minority today. Within the last 2 centuries, they withstood the horrors of strategic genocidal campaigns in their ancestral homelands, their ancestral lands that have led to their continual persecution and forced exile. Recurring problem in the Middle East is the oppression of Assyrians by Kurds. The Kurdish oppression of Assyrians has a notable long-standing history, most notably during the Assyrian genocide by the Ottomans in 1915 through 1918, where many Kurdish tribes assisted in the Ottoman campaigns of violence against Assyrians, Armenians, and other Christians. So it's a very interesting article. I'm going to look at one more that was written in the Gateway Pundit. When I was in Iraq, I came across a lot of Kurds, and it is true that the Kurds have been the historic enemies of the Assyrian people and were behind many massacres of them. But when I was there, the Kurds showed me exceptional kindness, honestly, but seemed to be a friendly people. But we should remember history and not forget it. So this is also by Antonio Graceffo. This is in the Gateway Pundit. And it says, the politics of language in al-Shara's Syria, Kurds and Assyrians fight to keep their culture alive. So we have a book fair in Rojava. I've been all over Syria, but I've never been to Rojava. In 3 languages, Kurdish, Arabic, and Assyrian, just like all the official documents in Rojava. The sign outside the book fair in Qamishli, Rojava. I have been to Qamishli. Syria. That must be the name of the province. So I've been to Qamishli. I just wasn't familiar with the term Rojava. Was written in 3 languages, Kurdish, Arabic, and Assyrian, just like all the official documents in Rojava. Assyrian, a language closely related to that of Jesus, is one of the several tongues officially recognized by the Autonomous Administration of North and East Syria. This 3-language policy reflects the genuine inclusiveness of Rojava's multi-ethnic government, where Kurds, Christians, Arabs, and other minorities live in relative harmony and enjoy representation and governance. So some kind of book fair promoting Assyrian literature. So it's good to see news. So it's good to see these news reports out there putting out important information about the Assyrian people and their plight. I really believe that there should be an international effort to reestablish Assyrian people in their ancient homeland. Why? People talk about the Jewish Holocaust, and it's like never again, never again. And I don't want to see the Jewish people suffer again like they have in the past, but genocide shouldn't be acceptable anywhere. I thought we should have stayed out of the war in Bosnia, but they used ethnic cleansing as a pretense to go and get involved in that civil war, which in my opinion was none of our business. But because of ethnic cleansing, the United States involved itself in this war in Eastern Europe to prevent ethnic cleansing. Well, the Assyrians are being ethnically cleansed, are they not? And we can't allow, it's a type of genocide, right? I mean, these Islamists go in there, and they should not be allowed to succeed in committing genocide against the Assyrians. And I think the international community should work to create an Assyrian safe haven and allow these people to reestablish themselves back in their ancestral homeland. Because the international community should make sure that the efforts of ISIS fail. And I want to mention today I saw something, and it's like real leadership from President Trump, because apparently This is Saudi Arabia and Qatar are behind these things because that's what they do. And anytime there's Islamic violence anywhere in the world, you can be certain that that's American petrodollars from Saudi Arabia at work. That's what they do with their wealth. And so there's been killings this year, tens of thousands of Christians in Nigeria. Nigeria is about 50% Christian, 50% Muslim. And then, of course, anywhere in the world we have these two communities living next to each other, you're going to have this conflict. And the Saudis, the Gulf money, petrodollars are going to finance genocide. Like, I'm sure that ISIS is financed by Saudi Arabia as well. I don't know why we just, people are bought off, but we should recognize these countries as national security threats and foreign adversaries of the United States of America. But we're paid off and bought off by their oil, sadly. That's why we need to be getting very vigorous anti-Islamic apologetics and polemics. But real leadership, we never see this before. With ISIS, Obama, who I believe Obama is a gay Islamo-Marxist, but Obama, you had ISIS going on, Christians being brutally killed, and you have the National Day of Prayer, and Obama shows up, and he starts yelling at all the Christian ministers there, "You need to get off your high horse and stop judging ISIS for what they're doing. Who are you to judge them? After all, the Salem witch trials and the Crusades and blah, 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 blah," moral equivocation and dismissing it. Remember, Obama tried to overthrow the secular government of Egypt and bring in the Muslim Brotherhood. Thankfully, General Sisi was able to bring a moderate government back into power again. Obama is a villain. I hope there's reports that he may be arrested. Pray that he is, that he's indicted and faces prison for the things that he's done to this country and to the world. But it's not just Obama. No one. We hear these reports of persecution of Christians around the world and sometimes terrible massacres, and no one does anything about it. But I remember, just look at ISIS. Obama let them, with impunity, just commit havoc and mayhem. And then, it's like, well, nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can do about it. And then Trump becomes president, and bam, within just a few days, ISIS is finished. So right now, we have tens of thousands of Christians being killed in Nigeria. And Trump called on the Nigerian government and says, look, you're going to stop these killings of Christians now, or you're not going to get any foreign aid. And more than that, I'm going to send if you're not going to stop the killing of Christians in your country, I'm going to do it. We're going to go in there and we're going to put an end to it. And, you better get on it now, or there's going to be consequences very soon. And of course, like I said, you have half the country of Nigeria is Muslim, and I'm sure the government there are forces in the government in Nigeria that are allowing the massacres of Christians to take place, or just in indifference and in not taking action to stop it. So Trump says, you're going to stop it or else. And we need that type of strong action. And I hope it probably will work because they want that foreign aid and they don't want American military forces coming in. So hopefully that'll motivate the Nigerian government to put an end to the activity of the Saudis and the Qataris and massacring all the Christians over there, and Boko Haram and all these other, ISIS in Nigeria. Put an end to that. And that's extraordinary efforts. I think that's to be welcomed and encouraged. And we also need to take extraordinary efforts, I believe, to help the Christian community in Iraq to rebuild after this genocide. Do not let ISIS win or succeed. And it's been years, and the number of Christians has been dwindling. But I think it's time for action to say, no, we're going to say no to genocide. We're going to say no to ethnic cleansing. We're going to help the Assyrian community there rebuild. But a lot of it, it's going to be on the Iraqi Christian community themselves. They have to do it themselves as well. But I think this should also be a international effort. So let's watch for Assyrians in the news. I think these are important news stories, and I appreciate the Gateway Pundit for what they're doing to get these facts out.